A tour of PDX's sensory room, cartoon images of an airplane and a person with a cane and a dog guide. Three adults turn into a room at an airport terminal. The sign above the door reads sensory room.
We ended up getting a crash pad in the sensory room because of a recent story that a family unfortunately was not able to travel.
Jill McPherson speaks to the camera. She's a white woman with blonde hair pulled back. She's wearing a long sleeve brown shirt, a light brown vest. She's also wearing a sunflower lanyard.
The little one was just having a meltdown and they weren't able to take off. So the police officer who came and just helped with the situation said, I want to take the call because my son too has autism and I know how to help. And so police officer brought the family in here to the sensory room and the child wanted to throw himself against the wall. And of course, safety comes top of mind, is we don't want anyone to be hurt.
Right.
And so right away, we knew we needed to get a crash pad. So if someone...
A thick purple mat sits on the gray carpeted floor between two black bean bags.
did need to be aggressive, we have a safe place here in the sensory room for them to do that. So it all turned out fine, and everyone was safe and no injuries. And,
That is super cool. And yeah, it's one more tool to make, especially for the holidays.
Yeah.
It's such a stressful time for people.
Yes.
Having a space is amazing.
Yeah.
The parents often have more than one child, and they're
A view of the Portland International Airport. People walk through open space. The ceiling is natural wood and the floor is white.
carrying a lot of stuff.
Right.
They may be going into situations, and so
Right.
yeah, having that support, having a place. I just was sharing with Jill that my son on the autism spectrum, when he was very young, it took so much for us to just prepare to travel.
Dr. Amy Parker speaks to Jill McPherson and Patricia Kepler. Dr. Parker is a white woman with long blonde hair. She has red and black glasses. She's wearing a long sleeve brown shirt. Patricia Kepler is a white woman with red hair, wearing a long sleeve dark red shirt.
I like had everything. I had to constantly keep him entertained, and it was really, really hard. It is for any young child.
Yeah.
But then when you add a communication challenge or you add a sensory challenge, it becomes that much harder for parents and a child to deal with. So this place is lovely. Really.
One of the things that
Jill McPherson and Patricia Kepler feel a tactile mosaic of a blue phoenix rising from a red fire. The background is orange and yellow, overlapping circles.
I learned is that, not everybody, with a sensory need has autism, but everybody with autism has a sensory need.
Walter Marchbank speaks to Jill McPherson in the sensory room. He is a white man with short brown hair. He's wearing a dark suit with a light blue shirt and a sunflower lanyard.
It was something that I learned from the Autism Society of Oregon. One of the reasons that I've really been focus a lot of energy on sensory education within the airport community, right? Partnership with Culture City, our partnership with the Autism Society, the ARC, they're all, relationships, right? Like the accessibility committee is really all about relationships and relationships with individuals and also relationships with organizations. You look up above on the outside, you'll see all the sponsors that made this room come together. There are airports that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building out amenities and spaces for individuals with sensory needs. Before actually this room was a smoking room. This was an indoor smoking room up until the early 1980s when they were outlawed, right? So we had an indoor smoking room, and this room was basically just collection of operational supplies, and it was a dumping ground, really. And as we looked for spaces, this was one of the first spaces that we identified because it was it's a large space. It's really actually much bigger than it probably should be. Ultimately, we took what we can get, right? This space is almost 1,000 square feet, so it's pretty big. So what we did was we started with the shell. We got all the stuff out, right? We worked with Culture City to kind of help us design the space and figure out, well, what is it that you want to have in here? And where you want to locate everything, right? We had to install power up high for the bubble walls. We had
A close-up of the bubble walls, a sensory installation that incorporates multicolored lights and bubbles in water. There's another close-up of an acoustic fabric on the wall. It is light colors with visible texture. On the wall is a two-dimensional wooden toy.
we had to put some rough infrastructure in. The carpet, what looks like carpet, is actually acoustic fabric, so it actually helps to keep noise down inside the space, softens the space up a little bit. The lights were changed out. They're not actually fluorescent, they're LED, and we adjust the room lighting level over here, right? So
Walter Marchbanks moves to a switch on the wall marked Adjust Room Lighting Levels. He moves the switch and the lights in the room dim and then brighten.
you can start. You can adjust those. Added window coverings. Obviously, the airplane seats and all of that, came later, but
2 rows of 3 airplane seats with windows are set up to show the view from a plane in flight.
we started with what was a pretty interesting shell. Originally, we actually had sensory bags in the room, so we had like a box where people could take sensory bags, but we found that we were going through so many sensory bags. I mean, last year we went through almost 3,000 sensory bags here. So that's a lot, right? I mean, but you think about a lot in terms of the 17-ish million passengers that are using the airport. It's really not a large number, but it's a really important number. I mean, we were here just a few minutes ago, right? We had a family that was in here. We got them a sensory bag. Their stuff is over here because they're working with Delta trying to get themselves rebooked. At some point, I'll probably have a conversation and help them understand, look, there's a flight that leaves at 2 that's direct, but it's standby only. There's a flight that's at 1 that gets you to LA that you're going to have to transfer. I know that's stressful, but that's a bird in the hand. So that's probably a conversation that I'm going to have with the family when they come back in here. I know that Delta's working on them too, right? But traveling is stressful. It's stressful for everybody, right? So if somebody has a sensory need, or somebody has, somebody just needs a place to sort of get out of the sensory stimuli that exists in the airport,
A woman stands with a guide dog near an airport exit. The woman wraps the guide dog's lead around her hand as the dog looks around the area. An image of a guide dog sleeping at a woman's foot. Patricia Kepler wraps up by speaking to the group.
lots of sounds and smells and sights. This place is a place where you can really go and just chill out.
No, this space is amazing. It's like you said, that the acoustics are fantastic. It's very peaceful with the sound of the water wall. It's a nice place where someone can bring a book and just sit down and recover from everything.
Fade to black.